Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I wanted to share our experience with facial recognition in the past 12 months. So we've started piloting with facial recognition in November last year and gradually build up our experience of 150 people, delegates, events, to 500, to 1,000, to 2,000, to 5,000. And now we're the largest event we've done in live production with a 99.7 success rate is actually 6,700 people, and we're moving to 20,000 people in January. So we've learned a lot in the past year, a lot of trial and error, a lot of frustration, and as with every startup, it's discovering what works, what doesn't work, and that's what I like to share with you today. And how do we see this technology evolving in the industry and how we'll put it to use. So, first of all, Fielddrive, what do? Well, we have three components. The first one is we integrate with association management platforms, with event registration platforms. So we're not a registration company. We actually pull in data from the registration companies and then do things, cool stuff with it on site. So we do live badging. We have over 180 integrations now. So wherever your data is, we can use it live in the event. And we have these kiosks, and these kiosks, they do more than batch printing. We also fully integrated the facial recognition in it, so that even in full color printing, you can have advertising targeted based on the individual. So rather than having one advert for all the delegates in an event, we can do full color printing based on a target group and segmentation. And that's just one of the things we do. But what we have learned from facial recognition, and we've partnered up with Zenus, which is our core partner in this domain. We've partnered up to do live events, and what we see is that how does it work? The attendee actually uploads a photo before the event. I'll show you the process later on. You walk up to the kiosk, and the biggest delay you get in an event is actually people looking for their barcode, because they're talking, they're in the queue, and then when they arrive at the kiosk, they start, oh yes, where's my barcode? Let me find the mail. That's where you lose time. So that it makes no sense to provide a super fast printing solution where you can print badges in 7 seconds, and then you spend another 20 seconds waiting for the delegate to find his barcode, and another 15 seconds to put on the wristband, and another 30 seconds to clip on the lanyard. So make use of the technology and make sure that the throughput of your audience, and certainly it doesn't make that much importance or difference if you have a 300, 400, 500 delegate event, but if you're talking about getting in 20,000 people within 1 hour, then every second matters, and it's getting the people through. And that was our basic idea, is how can we move people faster through the process? And then facial recognition is actually grown from that necessity to have less equipment and to service more people in the throughput. So you walk up to the kiosk, you're recognized, the camera recognizes you, and it automatically starts printing your badge. And I'll show you some numbers on how we managed to reduce, but typically you see that in a classical event registration, people walking up the kiosk, it takes roughly between 25 and 40 seconds before they actually walk away with a badge. With facial recognition, we managed to reduce this delay to 9 seconds per delegate, which is really fast, because that also means that you can reduce the equipment, the volume of equipment you use during an event is 50% of what you typically would use. The number of staff you use to check people in is also half. So actually the facial recognition, the extra cost for facial recognition is compensated by the fact that you need less equipment and less staff on site. That's one of the big learnings we had this year. So how does the process work? We here have a process with Eventbrite, so people register in Eventbrite. There is a question in Eventbrite, would you like to opt in for facial recognition? And most importantly, do you want to participate in the fast track experience? It's always looking from the perspective of the delegate. What's in it for me? I have to upload my photo. There's a lot of questions. What's in it for me? What's the benefit as a delegate? Well, the benefit, we will prove you that it's faster and that it will be a more a more fluent delegate experience. So, including that question, you get your confirmation email from Eventbrite, from Shocologic, whatever platform you're using. We just include that question, and in that question, in the confirmation mail, you will receive a direct link. You click in that direct link, and then you're directed to the face upload page, where you just take a selfie with your smartphone, you upload a photo from your laptop or whatever, and we will do an automatic verification whether that photo is enough in resolution, whether you didn't put a photo of your dog up there, because people have tried everything in the last year, or they put like a group photo, but who is it in the photo? I don't know who is it. So we do this pre-verification and we give you a score. And my score here is 10. I never had a 10 at school, never. So basically anything above 7.5 will work. If it doesn't work and the photo is not compliant, then we will automatically post back, and that happens within milliseconds. We'll tell you, can you upload another one, because we can't work with this. So you know that all the photos that have been preloaded are valid for facial recognition. Then this data is actually, and that's a very important part in terms of GDPR and privacy, the photo is actually deleted from the server again. The only thing we do is make up a biometrics profile, which is not more than an array of numbers, and that is stored on the biometric server together with your database ID in the registration platform. So there's no personal data on the biometric server, and that's a very important point because it doesn't change any implications in terms of GDPR. There is a biometrics profile with an ID, which doesn't mean anything, and it's by walking up to the camera on the kiosk, the live stream video goes to that same biometric server, and it will do a ratio of 10 images per second. It will make up biometrics profiles, and every image, it will create a biometrics profile and say, do I know this guy? No, I don't. Do I know this guy? No, I don't. So when you compare that to a facial recognition experience, for instance, at the airport, you put in your passport, and the passport is verified one face to one passport. It does nothing more than compare the photo on your passport. Is that the photo that's on the person? In this case, it's much more complex because we're actually live streaming to the server and comparing one image of a person standing in front of the kiosk to a database of 50,000, 100,000 delegates within milliseconds. So the technology is totally different in terms of speed. And we get a 99.7 accuracy of a database of 100,000 faces in the database. And that is really mind-blowing. So it can be even identical twins walking up the kiosk, and the kiosk will make a distinction between them. So it's really incredible in terms of technology. So speed is one of the big buy-ins. Security, of course. And then by walking up to the kiosk, now we do a verification process, so it will still ask, are you Danny Stevens? And you will still have to click yes or no. We can switch that off, and just by walking up to the kiosk, by the time you get to the kiosk, your badge is already there. So that allows you to keep speed into your queuing system and to make sure that you can check in delegates as fast as possible. So this biometrics profile that is stored is just an array of numbers. The photo is not stored on the server. You can choose actually whether to store on the server, because in some high security events, we want to print that photo on the badge. That means, and that's a very important element in terms of privacy, you have to do an opt-in. It's not like you can set up cameras everywhere and start filming everywhere. The technology allows that, but privacy regulations define that differently. And we have launched the first live events with facial recognition exactly at the same time when GDPR was launched. So we didn't want to go into the gray zone. We wanted to say like, this is what we do, and we're 100% compliant to GDPR. But technically, we can do way more. We could set up a camera here, filming the audience, and if you have uploaded your photo, I can tag 99.7% out of the people in the audience and say, this is Katie, this is John, this is Mike, and you've got 3 outstanding invoices, you like chocolate. So by matching these data you know of the delegates, you can start building an experience. So we wanted to stay within the 2 markers of GDPR, and we focused on registration and live badging, because there's an opt-in. We can set up a separate queue line for the delegates. So either you chose facial recognition, you agreed up, so you gave your consent, and then we send you in this line, and then you're captured by the camera. If not, you will not be captured by the camera. So we see this moving forward into other experiences. So for instance, the check-in was for us the pilot case. What can we do with check-in and how can we take benefit of this technology? We see this evolving in ID checks. So we did the security event, the event security conference last month. We see a lot of interest from festival organizers. How can we track people in the event? How can we blacklist people and say like these people are known as troublemakers? We could perfectly have access cameras and picking these people out, even if they register under a different name. You can't change your face. Well, you can, but it's expensive. It's more expensive than switching a badge or registering under a false name. So in terms of security, access control, backstage and hospitality in the festival space and in the conference space, that's the second use case we're working on. And then there's watch list, blacklist. We can also use it for session tracking. We could put up a camera here and exactly know who's in the room, how long they stayed. And in the future, we will also be able to say, were they happy? How did emotional recognition can also be done by the technology. We can set up heat maps, so we could have. We're now testing with Zenus with cameras that are set up in the event, and anonymously we can track how many people and how many footfall you had in a specific area. We can link demographics to that and say like, we know that it was John, but we're not going to tell it was John. We know that John is between 35 and 40, that he was male and interested in this industry. So we will use it for benchmarking rather than individually tracing a person throughout the event, because that makes it anonymized data, but just based on a demographic, gives us a lot of insights in the events. So I would like to know, I have some Slido questions here. How cool do you think Slido is? Well, that's also a good question. We should include that. Slido is very cool. How cool do you think facial recognition is, and how do you see this? Would you use it? Oh, that was not the end of my presentation. Okay. Give me time. %, cool, very cool. Oh, we're going down there. Yeah. Okay, we see that there's a very high buy-in, and also in terms of the delegates, I will show you some myths that we have identified in the last year. Like people think it's scary, it's intrusive, it's not working. We actually capture data from delegates, and we will share their experience with you. The second question is, have you ever experienced facial recognition in any kind of digital environment, like at the airport or whatever? Maybe you have a laptop with facial recognition, so have you come across facial recognition in any digital environment in the past year? And this was very important for us. At the same time as iPhone X launched with face recognition, at the same time as you see popping up all those kiosks in the airports with face recognition, we launched our product in the events industry. So people get more and more acquainted. Remember like when 15 years ago you bought a cinema ticket and you actually went to the kiosk and you physically had your ticket, and now everything is happening online? Well, we see an adoption there. It's part of an educational process and it's part of learning. We've done events where the first opt-in rate was like 35%, and for the same client in the same environment, we now see that it's going up to 75%. So it's just getting more acquainted to it and seeing the benefits as a delegate. The third question I'd like to ask is, has anybody experienced facial recognition in the event space in the past year? Have you come across any registration, event registration? Nobody? Really nobody? Okay, there's a huge opportunity. So it's known by the audience. You think it's cool. So I can guarantee you that in the next year, or at least the next 2 years, you will be coming across facial recognition in any aspect of the event industry. It will change our industry forever. We will see that technology like RFID, NFC, beacons will be replaced by facial recognition as more as it gets acquainted and as more as people get used to it. So there's a huge opportunity there for product. Can I get my presentation back? So a very important thing there is convenience and personalization. One test we did was with on the World Mobile Conference. We asked people to register like, do you want to do facial recognition? Yes and no. And what's your favorite coffee? Is it cappuccino, espresso? And then we had a hidden camera behind the mirror, and the barista had a screen in front of him, and as soon as somebody walked up to the bar, he could say like, I think you're a cappuccino guy. So think about how you can use this to extend this experience in the delegate experience, because that's when the personalization, you can have people stand up in front of a camera and say like, your next appointment is with John, or your next presentation is Dan, or you have like 3 outstanding invoices, I think, with our company. No? Not yet. It'll come, it'll come. So think about how facial recognition can increase that interactivity with the delegate during your event, far beyond just the check-in. And lead retrieval, of course. So what we've done about 30 live events. The first 5, 6 ones were pilots, and then increasingly we build up. We experimented with camera positions, the camera being on the kiosk, the camera being 2 meters away, 5 meters away, 4K cameras, 8K cameras, simple 720p cameras, the bandwidth, local service, we've done it all. And what we have learned is that we now achieve an accuracy of 99.7% out of a database of 100,000 delegates within milliseconds. At first, the biggest bottleneck was the bandwidth, because you have all these kiosks streaming live to the server, which takes up an enormous bandwidth. And then the cost of the bandwidth, as you all know, go to the Excel and ask them to have a 100 megabit line for your event for a whole week. It's costing a fortune. It's actually costing more than the facial recognition technology. So you'd be paying more. So then we started exploring with local servers. And the next step we did is like, we don't have to stream all the time to the cloud to verify. So now the kiosk is actually doing a pre-check. It's checking like, is there somebody in my vision? No, so we don't stream. If there is somebody in my vision, have I seen him before? Yes, I've seen him before, so why should I start streaming to the server? If I've not seen him before, it starts streaming, 10 images per second. As soon as he gets back an answer, he knows that's number 2235, then it will stop streaming. So this actually allowed us to reduce the bandwidth. We can now run 5 kiosks simultaneously on a 10 megabit connection, which is actually running off your smartphone. And that's a huge advantage, because the cost of the bandwidth is not the blocking element anymore, and you don't have to bring hardware on site, having a local server polling. For very big events, it still makes sense. Suppose that you want to stream an audience in live with 8K video, then you would have to go to a live on-site server, but otherwise you can simply run it off the cloud with a very high accuracy. So we've done a lot of tech and non-tech events, and we see that the biggest non-tech event was a 2,000 people event in the construction area. They were all roof builders. And you would say like, roof builders, they don't have any digital affection. They're on their roof and they don't even bother about making their invoices. So these guys, we still had an opt-in rate of 50% with one email the week before the event. So it was one of the pilot cases, and it's mind-blowing, because if you find 50% of your audience willing and able to upload a photo to do facial recognition without saying, no, this is scary, I'm not doing it, it's too complicated, and that allowed us to go much faster in the adoption rate. And then we see that we now can check in people versus 20 seconds to 9 seconds per delegate on the check-in. And that's from walking to the kiosk, taking your badge, and walking away with the badge, full color printed. So that's the video that doesn't play on PowerPoint 2010. No, it's okay, it's okay. We've come across a lot of questions in the past year. The first one is, people think it's creepy. Yeah, no, I don't want my photo taken. I don't want people to recognize me. What do you think Google is doing? What do you think is happening when you go to a casino? Do you really think they don't know who you are? You're being filmed everywhere. London is the most camera sensitive city in the world. In China, they're going to you can earn points if you don't cross the footpath in the right place. You will earn karma points and you won't get a loan or whatever. So facial recognition is there to stay, and it's just how we adopt it in our day-to-day life. So what we've seen, and I will share the results afterwards. Secondly, people think that collecting images is hard. It's not. It's expensive. High requirements, it doesn't work well, and it's not GDPR proof. So what we have learned, first of all, in the different target groups we've done, it's a 95% people that say, wow, this is great, this is awesome, I've never seen this before. I walk up to the kiosk and the badge is there. So this surprise element, apart from the facility and the speeding up the processes, we now have to chase people away from the kiosk because they want to ask questions about the facial recognition because they don't know it. So the time we win by clipping on the lanyards and finding their barcode, we're now spending it on explaining people how cool this stuff is. So typically in an event we say just move on, and there's another kiosk where you can ask questions and you can ask what the technology is doing and how do we see it evolving. So the wow factor is really something that adds value to your event. Secondly, it's difficult to collect images. It's not. It's an integrated API, and whatever platform you're using, you don't have to integrate the facial recognition in your registration process, which would take us, we have about 160 integrations. It would take us 200 years to implement that with any one of the parties. So what we did is we just add one question to the registration flow. Do you want facial recognition, yes or no? If the answer is yes, we will send you a confirmation mail with a link, and in there you will be able to take your selfie, upload it, it will be verified. So it's very, very low tech, it's very easy to upload your photo, and the quality insurance, we did an event for, and I'll show you the movie afterwards, the Keller Williams event. There was 8,600 people registered. We did one email a week, exactly 1 week before the event, and we had 4,700 photos uploaded within the first hour after the email. Can you imagine 4,700 people going to their PC, taking a selfie, having it verified by the server, and getting a positive answer back? So we can treat volume. It's better when you have the registration open and you have it spread out, but actually the server capacity was able to manage this volume of delegates. And for the first events, we were 50 to 65% for that client. Immediately after the first event, which was a 2,000 delegate event, they signed up for the next 3 years for all their events for facial recognition. So they see that there's a benefit there. And we also see that the opt-in rate is going up from 65 to 85%. So it's a learning process, because the people queuing with their barcodes waiting to get their badge, and the other ones just walking up to the kiosk, the guys with the barcodes say I want to go there. No, you can't. You didn't upload your photo. I can guarantee you that next time they will upload your photo to be in that. So what's in it for the delegates? What the benefit for the delegates? And showing that live, so we slow down a bit on the barcode side, so that they will opt in for the next. No, we don't. No, we don't. But it's part of a learning process and getting people to get used to it. It's expensive. Well, actually, it's not expensive. If you compare, typically face recognition in an event, if it's a small event like a couple of hundred people, you'll probably pay €1 per delegate. If it's a big event, you pay something like 50 cents per delegate. But imagine that by using that technology, you can actually reduce your staff and your equipment on site. It's actually balancing out. So the spend you do on facial recognition is giving you an extra value, and it's actually balancing out the necessity for equipment. But it's not only the equipment, it's shipping the equipment, preparing it, having it staffed during the event. And we all know that you have these huge registration. Go and have a look now at registration. This morning it was peaking. Now there's nobody there. Everything happens within the first hour and a half, the first 2 hours. That's when things happen, and you scale your event and the registration based on that first 2 hours. And then afterwards, your equipment is standing there doing nothing. We've done tests with taking event kiosks and putting them at the airport or at the hotel the day before the event. So people just walk up to the registration desk at 3 in the morning, they took a flight, they come in, even with their eyes like, oh, I'm jet lagged. They walk up to the kiosk and then even with that face, the face is recognized and they get their badge at the hotel. This allows you to reduce the morning peak, the morning stress by 40 to 50%. We see that 40 to 50% of the delegates pick up their badges at the airport, at the train stations, or at the main hotels during the event. So again, reducing the capacity or the volume of equipment. Because the rental price for the kiosk is for the event duration, so by spreading them out over the hotels and reusing them, because we can move them, and the actual setup of a kiosk is 2.5 minutes, so it's just plug and play, we are able to reuse the same equipment for different purposes in the event. Then, high requirements, I explained you the bandwidth. We can now run events of a 10 megabit connection. It's better to have more, but we have run events of a 10 megabit connection, so you don't need highly expensive bandwidth to manage registration on facial recognition. And it doesn't work well. One thing I would like to explain to you is that there's facial recognition technology and there's facial recognition technology. The example I gave you from the passport check-in at the airport, where you compare one face with one image, it's a totally different technology than what we do with Zenus. It's comparing one image to a database of 100,000 delegates in real time, in lifetime. And you will find APIs from Amazon, you will find plugins from Microsoft, so there's a lot of third-party providers providing facial recognition technology. This one has specifically been designed for the events and the meetings industry, which means that the requirements and the bandwidth and every aspect in the process has actually been designed for the live events industry, which makes it, and sometimes people say like, yeah, we've tried facial recognition with this company or with that company. Make sure that you compare apples with apples and that you don't compare somebody that's using an Amazon plugin or a Microsoft plugin to do some facial recognition and it takes you 25 or 30 seconds to stand in front of the kiosk. Oh, it doesn't recognize me. Oh, maybe it's the glasses. Did you shave this morning? Because no, that's not how it works. It should be spot on. And you can walk over to the kiosks and we can show you how fast it is. It's really amazing. So ask for references. Make sure that you do tests and that you see how it works in an event. Start with a small event with a pilot or visit one of the events and see, show me how fast this works and show me what difference this makes. If any one of you is in Amsterdam in January, there's Horecavo, we're doing 60,000 people with facial recognition in Amsterdam. So come by and have a look how it works. And then the sixth myth is, it's not GDPR compliant. Well, if you see that diagram, any one of you in the industry was involved with GDPR in the past months? Just raise your hands. Yeah, so you know it's complicated. You see how complicated that is, so it must be GDPR compliant. Most important there is that the biometrics data is not stored on the server with the data of the delegate. So it's just an ID and a number, and the delegate data stays within the registration platform or on the kiosk. So in terms of adoption and in terms of privacy data, it's exactly the same. Fielddrive is deploying its partner network, so we now have hubs in Singapore, in Dubai, so that means that the same equipment, the hardware, you will be able to find in any region where you operate. We're still working on that network. We have warehouses in the UK, we're Belgium-based, but we have a footprint all over the world. So this means also that we can offer this technology to companies that have events that change regions. So we have, for instance, MasterCard is one of our clients. We do 15 events for them in a row, back to back, and we provide them with equipment, whether they go to Singapore, to New Zealand. It's all coming from the local hubs, rather than shipping all the equipment across the globe with all the risks, or working with a local provider. That's how we work. How do we see this evolving? This is what we're testing with now, and this is pretty cool. This is really science fiction. You know Microsoft HoloLens? It's actually augmented reality, so it's mixed reality. You can see through the lens, so you actually see the real world, and we put the layer over it, which captures data. So this layer is now saying like, beep, this is you, I want to check you in. There you go. So I just point in the air and then the badge will print. We see this evolving in access control. Can you imagine a security guard just wearing glasses and then checking everybody that's coming in, and you see red dots flashing up like, I don't think you're supposed to be here because you gave your badge to somebody else. Do you know how much money organizations are losing with badges being swapped? Or people walking up to this, I lost my badge. Again? It's your third badge in 2 days. People switch badges and there's no way to ever access it. You can't switch your face. So in terms of security and securing your, and that's even what we call the intangibles, we have the cost of the facial recognition, we have the extra cost for the kiosks and so on, but then the upside is actually not measurable how much money organizations are losing in swapping badges and people not paying their entrance fees or trying to get in without paying in the event. So we're now testing with mixed reality, we're testing with AI, we're testing with emotional recognition, and I'd like to show you one video maybe. video. And there's some questions. Why didn't we have facial recognition? You should ask that Adam. Is Adam in the room? No, he's not. Well, it's a good question. Next year. So maybe it's Adam Perry at ETL. Just send him an email and say, we want facial recognition in 2019. That'll help. The second question is, what percentage of the audience check in by facial recognition? Well, that's the opt-in rate. We have the opt-in rate. If you have like, the one we did is 8,600, we had an opt-in rate of 78%. So 78% of the people opting in actually also walk up to the kiosk and are recognized by facial recognition because they get a different communication than the ones with the barcode. Actually, they don't even get a barcode. What's important in the process is to know that it doesn't slow down the process in any way. If your face, suppose that in the unlikely event that your face is not recognized, you can still use your barcode or look up a name, so it doesn't change the interaction you have with the kiosks. What type of clients?
Question, if you want to run the video.
We're running out of time?
Yeah, just if you do one more question and then we go to the video.
And then we go to the video. The video is only 3 minutes, so it's okay. I'm already done. What client or type event? The biggest client we have now is Keller Williams. It's a real estate company in the US. So it's all internal staff, or at least affiliates. And if I'd love to answer those questions, so you know who captured those questions, we can answer them separately. Do you know the IDs? No? Oh my. Okay. If you have any further questions, I'll be sticking around here, and you can also visit us at the booth. By the way, you have these little cards, you have our details on it, and if you send us a selfie with this one, you can win 1 kilo of Belgian chocolate. So, and there's like 3 good things in Belgium, no, 4. There's beer, there's chocolate, there's diamonds, and now there's facial recognition and Fielddrive. So take your chances and go for it. And there's a little video there. Ta-da! This is a combined video of 2 events we did. Spring Masterminds.
Being able to quickly register, I worried actually about lines coming in here today and how long it would take. And the fact that it took literally 2 seconds for me to get registered was pretty amazing. I was looking for my registration on my phone, and before I could even pull that up, the facial recognition system had already recognized me and registered me immediately.
Comparing to other events and methods, I think this is much easier, it's much faster, it's like there's no hassle, just scan your face and then they're good to go.
I would love to see that process at an event in the future and make things very simple. I think it would streamline the registration process, so I absolutely love this today.
So how does technology work?
There's more. There's more. It's probably PowerPoint 2010 not working with us. So anyway, thank you for joining in. We've learned a lot, and I think it's a very exciting environment to be in, and we see a lot of changes. So next year, don't forget Adam Perry at etl.com. So next year we'll have facial recognition and can share that experience with you. Thank you so much.